Hello my fellow motion designers, welcome back to the channel. I first of all have a little announcement. So if you have been following this channel for a long time, then you'll probably know that I'm a bit sporadic when it comes to uploading. I'll upload when I have an idea and I'll not really think about a scheduled uploading plan. So it's been a bit messy at some times. And I really want to apologize for that, because I want to give you guys the best content I can give you. And another thing that's been a little bit crazy is that I've gotten a job at Tactic Studio. And if you don't know them, it's a really awesome motion design studio located in Munich. So it's so awesome to be a part of Tactic, and I've been doing so much work already. But that unfortunately also means that I haven't had any time to do any videos on this channel. So the plan for the future is less quantity, more quality. So what I mean by that is that I will have one video per month and that's it. Of course, if I have an announcement or if I have a challenge, or if I have anything else that I really quickly want to share, I'll share that with you guys, but I'll only have one tutorial a month. But fear not, because this tutorial is gonna be so much better than all the other stuff I've done combined. So I'm really gonna focus all my energy down on this single tutorial, and this way you will get the most out of the video. Because my journey with this channel is just to educate you guys, and hopefully you guys out there will learn something, maybe become better than me someday, and I can learn from you. So for me, it's like this really awesome circle of knowledge where I can put an idea out there, it can bounce around between people, and it can come back as a better idea. And that is for me the goal of this channel. So before you get bored of all of this stuff, remember, one quality video a month. And for this one, I want to get into some awesome particle stuff, because I know you guys love the particle stuff. So what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is actually watching the Apple show called Foundation. And I know I'm a little bit late to the game, but the intro for this series has these really awesome particle systems, and I really want to try to recreate them. So I tried it out, and I think I found some really awesome techniques and some really awesome tips when you're doing particles. So without further ado, let's go into Cinema and let's make some particle renders. Alright, so who's ready to make some particles? Well, before we do the first setup, we need to know the basics of this technique. And the best way to do that is just to make a test scene. So I'm going to make a test scene first, and there you'll see all the ins and outs of this technique. Alright, so first of all, we're going to make a sphere. And you can actually make any geometry you want. I'm just gonna make a sphere. So I have my sphere here, I just pull it up a bit here. And then we're going to go to the sphere, go under simulation, and we're going to have it as a pyro emitter. Alright, cool. So if we play this now, you have the basic pyro setup. So what we need to do here is going to this pyro tag. We need to turn off the temperature here. We can also set the surface thickness to 5 centimeters. And then we need to go into our pyro output up here. So first of all, we are greeted with this screen here. And I'm just going to turn off my temperature and my density, so we only have this velocity on the export section here. So that means we are only exporting our velocity, and that is actually the only thing we need for this technique. Alright, let's go into Pyroscene up here. Let's click the drop down, and as you can see, we have a lot of settings. So first of all, I'm just gonna turn off the turbulence here, and then I'm going to also turn off this dissipation. both in the temperature and in the density. And why I'm doing that is because I need this smoke to go on forever without dissipating. Then we have the smoothing section, and I'm just gonna set everything to 25. And then we can say these forces, we should set that to include. And now we're actually ready to make some forces. So let's go up to our simulate here, forces, and let's make a wind. And this wind, we're just gonna go into our private thing here, and we're just gonna set the wind inside of this. So let me just bring it up here, and I'm just gonna place it like this. So we have this really cool little preview. And as you can see, things are not looking that great. So let's turn up the wind speed to something like 50. That should be awesome. And let's also go into the forces and let's make a turbulence. Let's also put this inside of the list down here. And the reason why I include the forces is because in a few moments we will actually make a force that's not gonna be included in here. So I just like to do it in this way. Alright, so let's also give it some turbulence. Say 25, and then just slowly turn it up, maybe some 50 here. It still has some buoyancy in it. So I think I'm just gonna go in here and turn off the buoyancy. And I think that should be working now. Alright, so I'm just gonna turn this down. And I'm also gonna set my timeline to 300 frames. So I actually have a little bit more to work with. Alright, this should be looking super cool. So actually you can't see that much right now in the smoke, but I'm telling you, this is actually what we want. So I'm just gonna turn up my turbulence a bit, so we get some more wild turbulence, kind of like this. Yeah, that's looking super awesome. Cool. So now that we have this, then we can actually go and we can cache this pyro by going to this pyro output, going to the cache, then saying cache scene. Alright, so I'm just saving it to my disk. And as you can see, we get this really big velocity grid. Alright, so it's cached now. And if I play, I get this ugly big box. So yeah, now we actually need to make the particles, because now we have our velocity grid and we need some particles to go inside the grid. So first of all, I'm just gonna make a null, and then I'm gonna call it Espresso. And what I want to do is go to programming tags and I'll choose Espresso, and then we get this one. Alright, awesome. So what I want to do is go to system operators, thinking particles, and we're gonna create a generator. So we're gonna create a p-born. So we will birth some particles here, and then I'm gonna go on the standard and I'm gonna make a set data. And what I also want to do is go on the dynamic, take a force object, go on the initiator, take a p pass, and the last thing we need is under the helper here, and it's actually the p surface position. So what I want to do now is connect my p-born to my p set data, and this actually just transfers the particles inside of this. So now we're only working inside of this. Then I want my particles down in this p surface position, and this surface position tells the particles where to spawn. So we also want that to be mixed with our particles. So we can go here and choose position for this. So now this P surface tells our particles where to be spawned, and all of our particle data tells this PZ data what to do with the particles. So up in PParse, I'm just gonna connect these two, and inside of the PParse we need a particle group, and we can just go to custom, TP settings, thinking particles, and we'll just pull in this all particle group here. And then I'm gonna go to my P surface position, and I'm gonna choose my sphere as my particle position. And then in my force object, I'm actually gonna go up here to simulate forces and create a field force. So inside of this force object, I can drag in my field force. Alright, so inside of our field force, we need to drag in our pyro output here. We need to set our velocity type to set absolute velocity. Then I know we need to bring it down to at least 0.01 because the strength is too high on this velocity grid. So before we go further, I'll just close this one down, and then we'll just see what happens. Alright, so we need to hide our pyro output first, like this, and there we go. Alright, something's weird is happening. Oh, I think that's because our sphere is actually not geometry, so we can just make that editable, and as you can see, the particles are starting to emit at our sphere. And what they should be doing now is actually following the smoke, and this field force actually tells the particles how to follow the smoke. So what I want to do now is go back into my Espresso setup, and I just want to go into this pborn. I'm gonna set the life to, let's say, 150, and I'm gonna set the life variance to 25. Then I'm gonna bring up the count of the particles, and let's see what happens. So you can see we get these really awesome, nice waves in it, and it really looks awesome when all of these particles are flowing through the smoke. So this is actually the base setup, and it's super simple. But before we go further, we also need to colorize it. So I'm just gonna open up my Redshift workspace here, and if I press play here, and I also play my timeline, you can see none of our particles are actually showing up in Redshift. So the standard thing to do would actually be go up here to our simulation and go to our thinking particles, take a TP, a thinking particle geometry, and then put a Redshift object tag on it and set it to points. So now you can see we have our particles, but it is actually not a good idea to do it this way, because all of the particles are gonna have the same color, and it's gonna have the same object size. And if we want to change that down the road, then it is so hard to do it with this TP geometry. So I'm actually just gonna delete that, and instead I'm going to take a matrix object here, and inside of our matrix we're gonna set it to object, and then I'm gonna go up to my simulate, and we're going to go into the thinking particle settings here, and remember we had this all particle group. We can actually put it down into our object here. As you can see, we're scattering matrix points onto our thinking particles points. And now it's just the same as we have done in so many other tutorials, just making a Redshift object tag, and then we can make a point. And as you can see here, we have the same kind of points here. But this way we can actually change the size and the rotation of our particles. So I'm just gonna select my matrix, create a random up here, and then I'm going to go to my rotation here, and I'm gonna set 500 degrees in each state. And then you can see it actually also follows the rotation here. So it isn't jumping, and it also has some random rotation. And if we go here to our scale, and we also set it to uniform scale, and we scale it up a bit, you can see it also holds the same amount of scale for each particle. So that's super, super, super awesome. And one more thing that is really, really crucial for this is that we can actually control the color. So if we go to our matrix, we create a plane, then we turn off all of the transformation here, and then we go to our fields tab. Then we can take our pyro output again. We can turn off the value and only keep our color here. And as you can see, we have the color of our velocity grid. And this color actually kind of stays in the same place. So what we can do with that now is actually go to a color filter for this. Then we can change value to color. And then I can go and change this to white. All right. So as you can see, we have a little bit of variation here, but I'm quickly going to make a material and I'm gonna put it onto my matrix. And inside of this material here, I'm gonna go to color user data. And I'm just gonna plug the color user data into my source here. Then I'm gonna take a MoGraph color attribute. And I'm also gonna make a ramp so we can actually control the colors. And what I want to do now is just crank this down like this, so we get some really contrasted stuff. Then we can take and make this kind of a green color, and then we can make this a kind of yellow golden color. So right now we have it set in here in our matrix to point instance. And what I want to do is create a disk, and I'm gonna set the disk to 2 in the outer radius. Then I'm gonna go into my Redshift object tag here. I'm gonna set custom object, and I'm gonna pull in the disk, because now you can see we're actually getting some of the really awesome rotation and scale we had before. And this is actually really crucial for this technique to work. So right now we lost our color, so I'm just gonna put on my material to the disk here, and that should be super awesome. Then I'm just gonna set the outer radius to 1. I think that's a bit more appropriate here. And I'm just going to make a dome light with a HDRI on it. So I'm just going to take HDRI, put it in here, boom, turn off the background. All right, so let's go and fix the material. So we can go in here to our material, and let's put this into our basic tab over here. And then I'll put the material inside of our surface, kind of like this. And then I'll go to my material over here, turn up the metalness fully. Then I'll bring some roughness back into it, kind of like this. And what I want to do now is actually go into my Redshift post-processing settings, and I'm gonna turn out streaks. I'm just gonna lower it a bit, kind of like this. Maybe let's turn up our dome light. Yeah, that could be fun. So a little bit more of a tail. Alright, cool. So now I have this glimmering kind of particles. And these particles are a bit too big right now, but we can easily make more particles and also make them smaller. And this is actually the base setup in Cinema. So So what I want to show you now is actually how to make this flag from the Foundation series. So what I want to do is actually go and close down my Redshift render view. And we can actually just convert this scene into the flag scene. All right, so let's go into our Pyro output here and let's delete our cache. Yes, I'm sure I want to delete the cache. Okay, cool. So what I want to do is actually just create a plane over here. And let's go and turn it 90 degrees like this. Let's pull it out here and let's put it down here kind of like this. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna go into my plane here and let's see. I'm just gonna pull up all of the segments. So we have 100 in the width and 100 in the height. Then I'm gonna make it editable. And I'm gonna go and throw on a cloth tag over here. And then I'm gonna bring it down. Okay, cool. So now I actually want to make my flag a little bit less square. So I'm gonna go into my polygon mode. I'm gonna select the lasso tool and I'm just gonna draw kind of like this. And then we can also take a little bit more so it isn't that square out here. Let's not take that. But then we can go and make some holes inside of this one. Kind of like this. And what I really want to do here is actually just make this a little bit chaotic and make it so this flag is actually being torn apart. And I think we just need to take this little thing. Yeah, I think that should be awesome. All right, so now we have this torn away flag kind of thing. Okay, cool. So let's go to the front view here and let's go to our spline pin. And now we can actually create a flag pole. So I'm just gonna make 2 dots here. I'm gonna go back. And I'm just gonna bring the flag a little bit closer to the pole. So kind of like this. All right. So let's go to our pole here and let's select all of the points and let's press US, 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 US to subdivide the spline a bunch of times. Then I'm gonna go to my spline and I'm gonna go to simulation tags and put on a rope tag here. Then I'm gonna go into the tag, turn off the bendiness, turn off the stretchiness, and I'm gonna go into the mix animation and set this with pins to it. So right now it shouldn't actually move, but right now our flag moves. So that is what we actually want. But now we need to connect those two. So I'm gonna go to my spline again and simulation tags, connector. So inside of our connector, we're just gonna turn up the search radius to 25 and I'm just gonna press create. And now you can see it made all of these drawing lines where it's actually connected, the flag and the pole. And as you can see here, it is connected now. But as you can see, we still have gravity on and it's really not that well connected. So what I want to do now is actually just go to my project settings, go under simulation, and I'm just going to turn off my gravity. And that should be awesome. So things are actually already animating here. And as you can see, it's a bit too wild. So let's go back to the start and let's set our turbulence and wind to something less than 50. So maybe like 15 and also maybe like 10, I think. Or maybe we can set our wind speed to like 25. So it actually keeps it going that way. We can also turn it up to 50 if we need to. Do we really need to do that? Yeah, maybe we do. And of course, one thing I actually forgot was that in our cloth here, we actually need to go to faucet and we need to exclude this field force here. So as you can see, things are working a bit better now. Alright, that's super cool. So I'm just gonna turn down the scale of the turbulence. So we have a little bit less turbulence. So yeah, this is looking so much better. This is really what we want for our flag. So now that we have our flag, we actually need to bring all of the parameters from our starting setup down here. So we're gonna start with our pyro sim here. And I'm just gonna delete my sphere actually. I'm also gonna go inside of my espresso, and there in my surface position, I'm gonna put in the plane. And inside of this surface position, you can see that there is actually a selection tag. So what I really want to do now is actually go to my plane and go here to polygons, and then I want with my lasso tool to select all of these areas to be the particle spawning points. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of cleanup here. Kind of like this. Alright, that should be good. So I'm just gonna go to select, store selection, and inside of my particle surface position node, we can pull in our polygon selection here. And that means that now when I play this, we should be having particles spawning from this point. Wow, it's so beautiful. Alright, so let me actually turn off this matrix here, just so we can see our particles. And that's looking so much better. But now we're missing one crucial thing. We're actually missing all of our pyro. So what I really want to do now is actually go to my pyro and look how that is working. And I think I need to be in this mode. So yeah, as you can see, my pyro, it is a bit... Yeah, it is a bit lazy right now because we turned down all of our settings. And what I want to do is go into the pyro scene, and I'm going to turn down the voxel size to like 2. And let's just see what happens. Alright, so now we're actually getting somewhere with this. So we're starting to make some flowing. Pyro smoke. And as you can see here, we have some nice looking smoke. But what I want to do is actually go to my wind here and just turn it up a bit to like 70 centimeters. Alright. That is awesome. And actually, since all of the particles are gonna stop out here, as they also did in the foundation one, I think I'm just going to make it disappear again. So I'm just gonna go in here into my pyro output, and I'm just gonna set the density dispersion to 5%. And let's see what happens. Oh yeah, that's way too much, I think. But let me just see when it gets going. Yeah, that's a little bit too much. So let's set it to 2% then. And let's also go to our turbulence here. And let's set that to something more like 20. And let's set the scale to 30. Alright, so I actually think that should be okay for this. Okay, cool. So now let's just cache our pyro. Okay, so now it has cached scene and it's looking pretty awesome, I think. But one last thing we need to do is that you can see the particles are just extending forever and ever. And we're just gonna go into our Espresso here, and I'm just gonna go to my pborn. I'm just gonna say they can't move further than 60. And we also gonna set it to 50,000 or 100,000 particles. So that should be really awesome to look at. And when they start to get going, these particles here, you can see it's gonna look pretty awesome. So let me just stop it at a frame where you can actually see what is going on. Kind of like this, I think. And I'm just gonna go to my Redshift thing again and press render, and there you actually have it. You can see all of the beautiful particles. And I'm just gonna go in here to my Redshift object tag, just gonna bring them down. Yeah, maybe a little bit up again. Something like that. That's looking super awesome. The last thing we actually need to do is make the flag also into particles. And we can just duplicate our matrix, and then we can just put our plane onto our matrix here. And what I want to do now is just scatter like so many particles onto this. And then I can actually turn off the plane entirely. And as you can see, we have particles on our flag, and we also have particles going out from the flag. So that gives this really awesome and nice looking foundation particle effect. Alright, so there you have it. You have these awesome particle techniques that you can use on your projects. And remember, this tutorial is just a technique. You can use it in so many different applications, in so many different ways. And what I want you guys to do now is go out there and make some awesome renders with this technique. And if you want to share them with me, then you can go down to the description. I have a Discord. So in my Discord you can get help, you can share knowledge with other people, and you can also get feedback on your stuff. So that's pretty awesome. And if you want to support me and you think this new chapter sounds pretty cool, where we make more quality than quantity, then go down and follow the channel, because then I know you really want to see more. So the last thing to say is just go out there, make some awesome renders, and I'll see you back here for some more cinema and Houdini magic. Goodbye.